Over the past few days, Bitcoin has continued to repeat the exact same pattern. Stairs up, elevator down. In today's video, we'll be talking about exactly this, when we could be potentially expecting a bounce for Bitcoin, and which levels I would actually consider bidding, as well as discussing the Ethereum all-time high that I've been covering on the channel at length. Will we get it? What is happening here? If you enjoyed the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. Without further ado, let's jump right into the video. We have to kick off the video with addressing Bitcoin first and foremost. You can see that we actually broke back within this range. Now, in yesterday's video, when we had the daily close looking like this with a wick to the downside and hopefully holding the top of this range as support, I was actually relatively optimistic, expecting a little bit of upside here on the daily time frame. But you can see that this has not materialized whatsoever. We just came much lower. So we have this weekly SFP candle, which we addressed in yesterday's video and the previous videos too, but now that Bitcoin is at this point, are we going to be moving lower? Because that's the question on everyone's mind. I can see that everyone on the timeline is extremely bearish, but do I need to remind you that on the weekly time frame, if you zoom out, this is very bullish market structure. Really zoom out and take a look here. Also, this most recent move with Bitcoin is exactly why I have been advocating on the channel to have most of your spot positioning in Bitcoin and Ethereum. Bitcoin, of course, gives you exposure to the entire market, which I've been advocating for. But if you wanted exposure to altcoins, that is where Ethereum comes into play. Because if we take a look at others against Ethereum, you can see here that if I zoom out on the weekly time frame, it's essentially nothing but red. We keep on going down, meaning that the altcoin market continues to bleed against Ethereum. And actually, taking a look at Ethereum, it is not looking super positive either, because if you've been watching me, you know that I'm expecting an all-time high for ETH. So I'm going to come out here and say it. ETH will be putting in an all-time high. The question isn't if, but rather when, because you can see that we're in a little bit of this downtrend, and every single time that we hit the bottom of the trend, we get a bounce. Every single time we hit the top, we get rejected. So where do I want to see Ethereum reclaim? First and foremost, before we even consider talking about Ethereum, we have to take a look at Bitcoin once more, because here's the thing. Bitcoin determines the rest of the market. I don't care what any influencer tells you, whether an altcoin is bullish or not. If Bitcoin completely nukes and continues to nuke, then altcoins stand no chance. And yes, that also includes Ethereum, despite the fact that I'm looking for an all-time high here. So first things first, with Bitcoin, what I want to see here, the most bullish case scenario would be to form a higher low. You can see that we set this low here at the bottom of the range, right around $112,000, which was actually the previous all-time high for Bitcoin. And if we zoom out here, you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Right at this level is where Bitcoin topped off, and then we held it as support, which is ultimately very positive. And this was also the logic behind my most recent Bitcoin long, which we yielded some significant profits with. This actually brought us to a new all-time high. Epic trade here. However, now that we're back in the range, I want to see actually this exact level to hold as support for the most bullish scenario. The reason being a low, a higher low, and this could be seen as the high and then a higher high. So if Bitcoin is to provide relief across the entire market, it should be from here. Now, what are the next levels? Because we have a lot of people calling for 110K, and even sub 100K is now on the timeline. Look, on the channel, I've been talking about how we would likely get a correction near the end of August into September. Either or, I thought it was going to be late August to September. However, I was not expecting this reaction from an all-time high. I got this movement completely wrong. And so how am I navigating this? Honestly, if Bitcoin were to come back down to these levels, which is around $110,000, I would actually be bidding quite hard for a nice Bitcoin long. Until then, I honestly am not that interested in longing Bitcoin at this point in time. But this isn't to tell you, hey, you should just jump into shorts, because this was a pretty significant move. We're down about 10% from the highs. And if I actually go ahead and measure it, you can see that from this wick all the way down to the low of today, yes, just below 10%. So is this going to be the bounce? Honestly, I couldn't tell you right now, because we are getting a little bit of initial reaction here, and this could be forming the higher low that we're looking for ETH and the rest of the crypto market to finally get a little bit of relief. I know a lot of people are panicking, but this is why I always advocate to have a strong spot portfolio. In this market, I haven't sold any Ethereum or Bitcoin. And I will make sure to keep you updated as soon as I do, because I still think that we're going to see Bitcoin and Ethereum at much higher valuations this bull market cycle. Everyone is calling for the top, and that 124.5K was the top. But with all of this blood in the market, I don't think that we're just going to continue downwards, and we should be expecting some kind of bounce relatively soon. Now, can the bounce also occur at the bottom of this range? Of course it can, because we've been tracking this range for several weeks, and Bitcoin does seem to respect it. When we get to the lows, we do tend to get a bounce, and here, when we held the value area low as support, it signaled that we were ready to go and make a brand new all-time high. This is of course on the daily time frame. Something else that I was looking at here yesterday, just so you're aware, was with this daily candle over here, we were above the value area low, which to me looked very positive. But sometimes if the market wants to move lower, it will just move lower, and naturally this affects the rest of the crypto market, such as Ethereum. Now I want to talk about Ethereum as well, because right here I talked about how we were potentially reclaiming the point of control of this range, and getting wicks tagging into this level was exactly what I was looking for ETH to potentially move higher. But as we always say, if Bitcoin doesn't behave, the rest of the crypto market has absolutely no chance, which is why most of my videos I do talk about Bitcoin, because you should be knowing what Bitcoin may do if you're going to be trading altcoins. Now, ETH is also currently below the value area low, not just the point of control. So for us to see continuation for ETH, assuming that Bitcoin can potentially hold here, what I would want to see is a nice reclaim here, and then a reclaim of the point of control before we can target all-time highs. I see a lot of people max bearish on ETH. And despite the fact that if we go to the 4-hour time frame, we see the stairs up, elevator down pattern for Bitcoin in full effect. As soon as this starts slowing down, I do think that Ethereum will be getting a very, very strong bounce. Now, what are the levels to bid for Ethereum if you want to trade ETH in preparation for a potential all-time high? What I'm looking at here, if I zoom out, is, first of all, seeing how much we continue to respect this range. If we can reclaim this liquidity zone over here, then at that point, I do think it would be looking positive for Ethereum, pending Bitcoin, of course, as I always have to say. So right here, I want to see ETH break back above this level, which is right around $4,160, depending on which exchange you're looking at. I'm just using the generic crypto one on TradingView. But the point is, we need to reclaim these levels if we are to see continuation. There is still some liquidity to the downside, which we'll cover in today's video. And this is mainly for Bitcoin, because a lot of people are trying to long the bottom here. However, a ton of liquidity is getting built to the upside. So if you didn't actually manage to enter a short, I wouldn't say that right now is the opportune moment to short the market, because a lot of this move already played out and we may be getting a bounce sooner than many people think. And taking a look at the liquidation heat map for ETH, you can see that there is a lot of liquidity to the upside. If I go to the 1 week time frame, this should paint a clearer picture. So much liquidity to the upside, and even right here, right around 4,240 is another nice liquidity pocket where there's over 140 million worth of liquidation leverage. So let's see what happens. Right now, ETH wants to bounce. I'm telling you. But we need Bitcoin to behave. Now, we also have this huge liquidity zone around the all-time highs, which you know that I do think Ethereum will be breaking this cycle. It is not over. Don't let anyone tell you that it's over. Dips are opportunities, in my honest opinion. Now, taking a look at the ETH exchange liquidation map, you can see that on the 30-day time frame, there are now way more shorts in the market than longs. But as I always say, Bitcoin matters most because it will determine where the rest of the market will go. Well, Bitcoin exchange liquidation map, you can see that all the way on the right here, there's around 14 billion worth of cumulative short liquidation leverage. And on the left here, there's only around 6.5 billion worth of cumulative long liquidation leverage. Most of the move down, in my opinion, is over before we can get at least some kind of relief rally. Now at this point, what on earth would a relief rally look like? Well, that could see us go all the way up to around $120,000, but we need to finally get some kind of pivot. Guys, I wouldn't be knife catching this if you're trying to long Bitcoin either. This is one of those moments where you kind of sit pretty in your spot positions and you just wait it out and see what the market gives us. And it's times like these where I'm extremely grateful that most of my portfolio is in Bitcoin and Ethereum as yours should be too if you've been watching the channel. It minimizes your downside risk, and now you can understand that if Bitcoin just keeps on moving lower, it will drag the rest of the market with it. So on these shorter time frames here, we really need to break this structure, and that structure is the stairs up, elevators down. So right here, if we can reclaim above these levels, which is actually found right around $116,000, and hold the top of this range as support, we can expect continued upside for Bitcoin. But for now, you can see that we just continue to trend lower. Every single bounce just goes lower and lower and lower. So don't catch falling knives. Same thing with Ethereum. If you're in my group, you know that I'm in an Ethereum trade. And if we start to get closes below this current level, I will be closing my Ethereum position. And from a trading perspective, reassessing when it's time to try and target that all-time high with an ETH long. But right now you can see Bitcoin just continues to drag the market with it. I also wanted to show you this chart, which we've covered on the channel at length. I was expecting the correction to be in September, although when I first started talking about a correction, we did say late August to September. Well, right now we are approaching the latter stages of August, and perhaps this is the correction that we're waiting for. I hope it's not. I hope we get a significant bounce here and ETH can target the all-time high before we move lower. I do think that would actually surprise a lot of market participants, but we'll have to see what actually happens. No one is a fortune teller. This was my base case that we would be getting some kind of correction, and it seems, unfortunately, like this correction may have come earlier. Now, if you want to trade the market, you do have the links in my description down below, which you always know are accessible to you. You get the best possible deals with these exchanges if you sign up with me. We have Phoenix down below where you can earn Solana and up to $1,000 cash back, which is this link over here. And of course, I do have weeks. If you want to trade Ethereum, whether you want to go long or short, or you want to prepare for the next big move, you can get a 1,000 Ethereum position airdrop. Now, this is a promotion that recently just got extended. All you need to do is sign up with me on Weeks, click the third link in my description down below, and then download the Weeks app, and you will get a free $1,000 Ethereum position airdrop. Make sure to sign up because this promotion won't last much longer. I asked Weeks exclusively to extend it for you. That is the third link in my description down below. And I want to wrap up this video with this. Imagine trying to explain to someone that crypto is at an all-time high and the sentiment is not only bearish, but people's portfolios are completely crushed. I know I've said this time and time again, and I've been talking about this for several months. Bitcoin gives you the upside while minimizing your downside risk. The only reason that I myself even considered swapping some of my Bitcoin into ETH was because we made these lows right around the 2019 crucial support level for ETH against Bitcoin. As you can see here, we tapped into it and then ETH Bitcoin went completely parabolic. So even in this downtrend, ETH isn't even doing that bad. You can see that it still continues to outperform Bitcoin. Obviously, on the weekly time frame, it is a little bit red, but I would be expecting ETH Bitcoin to continue to pick up in this cycle. In general, if you're a serious investor, this is what you want to look for. Right now, most of my portfolio is Bitcoin and Ethereum, and I'm sitting on my hands seeing what happens next in this very volatile market. And that sums up today's video. Bitcoin is now currently below $113,000, stairs up, elevator down, and it just keeps on happening. Ethereum, which I'm expecting to make a new all-time high, has absolutely no chance under these conditions, but I will of course make sure to keep you updated if things change. Now that we're back in this Bitcoin range, there's always a likelihood that we can move lower and tag the bottom of the range. But ultimately, if we were to break below there, I would start bidding right around $110,000. In the meantime though, if Bitcoin can carve out a bottom here before making it to the bottom of the range, then at that point, that would be confirming a higher low. And so I do think that we could see some relief across the entire market. Look, I get it. It's been a very tough few days, but these days don't last. Dips are for buying in bull markets. And yes, I do believe that we are still in a bull market. If you enjoy the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe, and I'll see you in tomorrow's video.